I thought I was just visiting my friend, until his mom whispered, "You knocked, so now you belong to me." The story opens with our male narrator, 23 years old, walking up the familiar walkway of his friend's house. It's a quiet afternoon, the sun casting a warm golden glow over the garden, and he's carrying a sense of casual purpose, just stopping by to return a borrowed book. Yet there's a subtle undercurrent of tension he doesn't fully recognize. He's been here countless times, but today feels different. As he knocks on the door, the wood's deep sound resonates in the empty hallway behind it, almost echoing the anticipation building in his chest. When the door opens, he's greeted by her, his friend's mother, early 40s, poised, graceful, and effortlessly magnetic. She's wearing a comfortable, age-appropriate blouse and jeans, her hair loosely pinned back, yet somehow even in its simplicity, she commands attention. There's a calm confidence in her posture, but it's softened by something quietly vulnerable in the way she tilts her head and smiles. "Hey," she says warmly, her voice carrying a soothing tone, a gentle rise and fall that immediately makes him feel at ease, and slightly off balance. He notices a faint trace of her perfume, subtle and floral, lingering in the air like a memory he didn't know he wanted to recall. As she steps aside to let him in, their eyes meet for a moment that lingers just a fraction too long. There's nothing overt, nothing inappropriate, yet he feels a subtle charge, a pull in the way her gaze holds his attention without saying a word. Her hand brushes briefly against his as she gestures for him to come in, a touch so light it could be dismissed, but it isn't. It's enough to make him acutely aware of his own heartbeat. Inside, the house smells faintly of baked goods and coffee, a comforting warmth that contrasts with the unexpected flutter in his chest. The sunlight streams through the windows, illuminating her face and highlighting the gentle curve of her cheekbones and the soft warmth in her eyes. She moves with a natural grace, pouring a glass of water for him, her fingers brushing the rim of the glass before it reaches him. That small motion, seemingly casual, carries an intimate rhythm that he can't quite ignore. As they exchange polite conversation about his friend's absence and schoolwork, he becomes conscious of the subtleties, the way she leans slightly toward him when she laughs, the way her hand occasionally rests near his without touching, the softness of her voice when she asks questions about his day. These moments, fleeting yet electric, stir feelings he hasn't experienced before, confusion, admiration, and a strange awareness of boundaries that he instinctively wants to respect. Inside, he wrestles with a quiet internal dialogue. "This is just my friend's mom. Keep it in check. Don't overthink it." Yet, there's a magnetic pull he cannot deny, a curiosity that tugs at him with each glance, each warm smile, each subtle gesture that seems to linger just a heartbeat too long. By the end of this first encounter, the audience should feel the slow burn beginning, a tension that's polite on the surface but charged underneath, a delicate mix of admiration, intrigue, and forbidden curiosity. The stage is set for an emotional journey that will explore attraction, hesitation, and intimacy, all framed through subtle gestures, sensory-rich details, and the quiet magnetism of an older, confident woman and the young man who notices every nuance. The afternoon stretches lazily as he settles onto the living room couch, trying to mask his fluttering heartbeat with casual conversation. She moves about the room, preparing a small snack, something simple, a plate of cookies or fruit, and he watches her with a mix of fascination and self-consciousness. There's a grace in her movements that seems effortless, a rhythm that draws his gaze even when he tells himself to look away. "Here, I thought you might be hungry," she says, handing him a plate. Their fingers brush briefly, just enough to make him notice the warmth of her skin. The touch is fleeting, almost accidental, yet it lingers in his memory, sending a jolt of awareness through him. He clears his throat, trying to focus on the casual nature of the gesture, but he can't help stealing glances at her as she moves back toward the kitchen counter. As they talk, there's a subtle playfulness in her tone, a teasing lift at the corners of her lips when she jokes about his habit of showing up unannounced. He laughs, and for a moment, the tension between them softens into something warmer, like the sun spilling through the windows, golden and inviting. He notices the way her eyes crinkle slightly at the corners when she smiles, and the way her hair falls just so across her shoulder, making him want to reach out, even though he knows he shouldn't. Their conversation flows naturally, but there's a magnetic undercurrent in every exchange. A slight touch of the hand as she passes him a glass of water. A subtle lean as she bends slightly to pick something up near him. Even the occasional brush of their knees as she sits down beside him, casual but deliberate, sends ripples of awareness through him. Each movement is small, almost dismissible, yet it builds an unspoken intimacy that neither can ignore. He's acutely aware of the scent of her perfume mingling with the faint aroma of freshly brewed coffee. There's a softness to her voice that seems to resonate in the room, wrapping around him like a comforting, yet disarming, warmth. Every laugh, every tilt of her head, every fleeting glance carries an energy that he can't quite name, a pull that is both thrilling and unsettling. Internally, he wrestles with the implications of his feelings. She's my friend's mom. This can't happen. Keep it in check. But logic clashes with instinct. He notices how her attention seems to linger on him just a fraction longer than necessary, how her gestures are small but intimate, how her presence fills the room with a kind of magnetic gravity. He tries to focus on ordinary things, the snack, the casual talk, but the emotional tension hums beneath the surface, impossible to ignore. By the end of this moment, the audience should feel the slow escalation of tension, playful, innocent gestures layered with subtle longing. The stage is set for the whispered invitation that will follow, the first overt sign that their connection is more than casual. Through eye contact, touch, and shared laughter, the seeds of attraction are firmly planted, and the emotional stakes for both characters are beginning to crystallize. After settling into the living room, he tries to act casual, though his mind is anything but. The sunlight filters softly through the curtains, casting a warm glow across the space, and he notices details he hadn't before, the faint floral scent lingering in the air, the gentle creak of the couch as she moves about, the way her hair falls loosely over her shoulder as she bends to retrieve something from the counter. Each small motion feels intimate, drawing his attention in a way that makes him acutely aware of her presence. She returns with a small plate of cookies, placing it on the coffee table with a light tap. Their fingers brush briefly as she hands him the plate, and though the contact is fleeting, it sparks an unexpected jolt of awareness in him. It's the kind of touch that shouldn't matter, just a polite gesture, but there's warmth in her skin, a subtle electricity that lingers longer than it should. He clears his throat, pretending to focus on the snack, but his gaze keeps drifting back to her. "Don't eat them all at once," she teases lightly, her smile playful, almost conspiratorial. There's a lift in her voice, a teasing melody that seems designed to draw him in. He laughs, a little too easily, and she notices, tilting her head slightly in amusement. Her eyes, bright and observant, seem to linger on him, not in a critical way, but with curiosity and a warmth that feels disarmingly personal. As they settle into conversation, he notices the little gestures that carry more meaning than words, the way she sits just a bit closer than necessary, her knees occasionally brushing against his as she shifts. The casual lean of her body toward him when she laughs, the way her hand hovers near his when she reaches for something, all these small, deliberate motions create an intimacy that's subtle yet undeniable. Each glance, each smile, each fleeting touch is like a secret language he's learning in real time. He becomes aware of her scent again, soft and floral, lingering in the sunlight. The warmth of her presence fills the room, wrapping around him like a comforting blanket. Even the sound of her laughter, low and genuine, seems to resonate inside him, creating an almost physical reaction, a flutter in his chest, a tension he can't quite name. Internally, he struggles to reconcile his fascination with propriety. She's my friend's mom. Keep your distance. Yet every instinct, every subtle gesture, pulls him closer. He notices the way she leans in just slightly when listening, the way her gaze holds his a beat longer than necessary, and he feels a mix of excitement, hesitation, and curiosity. By the end of this encounter, the audience should feel a growing tension, a playful, innocent connection layered with subtle longing. Through small touches, lingering glances, and light-hearted teasing, the stage is set for the next pivotal moment, a whispered invitation that will heighten the stakes and bring the slow-burn romance into sharp, emotional focus. The afternoon has deepened into a warm, golden haze, sunlight slanting through the windows and casting a gentle glow across the room. He sits on the edge of the couch, nervously twisting the edge of his sleeve, while she moves about casually, though there's a tension in the air that neither can ignore. Their conversation has slowed to a comfortable silence, punctuated only by the soft ticking of a clock and the distant hum of traffic outside. It's in this quiet, almost fragile moment that the dynamic between them shifts, without a word, without ceremony. She leans slightly closer under the pretext of picking up a stray napkin, and for a fleeting second, their hands almost touch. His heart leaps at the near contact, and he notices the warmth radiating from her presence, the subtle scent of her perfume stronger in the intimate proximity. Their eyes meet again, and for the first time, there is an unspoken acknowledgement, a silent understanding that something more is unfolding. Then she speaks, her voice dropping to a whisper, soft yet deliberate, "You knocked, so now you belong to me." The words hang in the air, charged with a magnetic tension that makes his chest tighten. They're not vulgar, not overtly romantic in a conventional sense, but the implication is electric. He feels the warmth of her breath against his cheek as she leans just slightly closer, her lips barely moving, her gaze steady and calm, yet carrying an undeniable intensity. Time seems to slow, the world beyond the room fades, leaving only the two of them suspended in a moment that is both thrilling and terrifying. His mind races, caught between disbelief and desire. She's my friend's mom, yet it feels impossible to look away. He wants to respond, to say something clever, something reassuring, but words fail him. All he can do is sit there, absorbing the quiet intimacy, acutely aware of every subtle detail, the curve of her lips as they hold a teasing smile, the way her hair falls gently around her face, the soft warmth of her presence enveloping him like a cocoon. There's a magnetic pull, a tension that is neither fully sexual nor entirely innocent, something in between, a slow-burn fire that sparks with the slightest touch or glance. He notices the way her eyes soften as they meet his, the faint tilt of her head that draws him in, the poised confidence in her posture that masks a hint of vulnerability. It's intoxicating and disarming all at once. Internally, he struggles with a mix of exhilaration and hesitation. This is forbidden. This is risky. I shouldn't feel this way. Yet the attraction, the intrigue, the unspoken promise of closeness, tugs relentlessly at him. Every instinct tells him to be cautious, but every heartbeat seems to pull him nearer, toward the uncharted territory of desire and connection. By the end of this moment, the audience should feel the peak of tension. The whispered words have ignited a spark, layering subtle desire with emotional intimacy. This is the pivot point, the moment where playful curiosity transforms into real, palpable attraction. From here, the story is poised to explore deeper emotional vulnerability, trust, and the slow unfolding of a forbidden yet profoundly human connection. After the whispered words linger in his mind, the room feels charged with an unspoken electricity. The earlier playful tension has softened into something more tender, more fragile. He notices every detail of her presence, the subtle sway of her body as she moves, the warmth radiating from her hands, the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the comfortable aroma of the house. There's a quiet intimacy now, a pause in the ordinary rhythm of the day that makes every glance, every gesture, feel significant. She sinks into the armchair across from him, her posture relaxed yet open. He sits on the couch, a few feet away, yet every movement between them carries weight. For a moment, neither speaks, letting the silence stretch, filled with unspoken thoughts and cautious curiosity. Then she begins to talk, her voice softer, reflective, sharing small fragments of her life, stories she might never have revealed before. She speaks of past disappointments, moments of loneliness, the small regrets that she has tucked away, and even her quiet hopes for the future. He listens intently, leaning slightly forward, drawn in by her words and the sincerity behind them. Every now and then, their hands brush lightly, an accidental touch as he reaches for his water glass, a subtle graze when she passes him something. Each contact is fleeting, yet it sends a ripple through him, a reminder of the growing bond forming between them. It's a tactile language neither fully articulates but both understand. The room is warm, sunlight spilling across the floor, creating a cozy cocoon around them. He notices the softness in her eyes as she talks, the way she occasionally tucks a loose strand of hair behind her ear, the gentle rise and fall of her breath. Her vulnerability draws him in, awakening a desire not for possession but for connection. He wants to comfort her, to show that he is present and attentive, not inappropriately, but with a quiet, sincere empathy that bridges the gap between age and circumstance. Their conversation flows seamlessly, as though the barriers between them are dissolving. He shares pieces of himself in return, hesitant at first, then more openly, the small anxieties he carries, the fleeting moments of loneliness he doesn't speak of with anyone else. She listens without judgment, her gaze steady, her posture receptive, her presence grounding him in a way he hasn't experienced before. There's a mutual recognition of trust forming, an understanding that this connection is different from any other relationship in their lives. The subtle physicality continues, light touches, the occasional proximity of knees brushing, the warmth of sitting near each other, but it's the emotional closeness that resonates most. He feels a growing sense of comfort and belonging, an intimacy that doesn't rush or force itself but unfolds naturally, carefully. By the end of this encounter, the audience should feel the deepening bond between them. The story shifts from playful curiosity to genuine emotional connection, laying the groundwork for the next stage, moments of tender physical intimacy without overstepping boundaries. The slow-burn romance is no longer just about attraction, it's about trust, vulnerability, and the undeniable human need to be seen, understood, and valued by another. The quiet intimacy between them has begun to feel almost tangible, like a soft current running through the room. The sunlight is fading now, replaced by the gentle glow of a floor lamp, casting shadows that make the space feel even more private, almost suspended from the outside world. He's acutely aware of every movement she makes, the warmth of her presence, the subtle rhythm of her breathing, and the way her gaze occasionally lingers just a moment too long. A small accident brings them even closer. Perhaps she drops a delicate teacup or twists her ankle slightly while reaching for something on the low shelf. Instinctively, he moves toward her, offering his hand. She leans into him, allowing the contact, her eyes soft and appreciative. It's a simple gesture, nothing overt, yet the warmth of her hand in his, the slight brush of their bodies as he steadies her, creates a moment of connection that feels electric and profound. They sit down again, closer this time, the space between them shrinking naturally. He feels the warmth of her arm near his, the occasional touch of her hand as she adjusts her clothing or brushes a strand of hair from her face. These touches are small, almost accidental, but they are charged with meaning, a gentle reminder of their growing closeness and unspoken understanding. She leans slightly into him during a quiet moment, as if seeking comfort or simply sharing the warmth of proximity. He responds with care, his hand resting briefly on her back, just enough to convey support without pressure or expectation. Their foreheads nearly touch in a pause of shared silence, a wordless communication that says more than words ever could. In that suspended moment, there is trust, vulnerability, and an intimacy that is both innocent and deeply personal. The air between them is heavy with unspoken feelings. Every glance, every brush of skin, every soft smile carries layers of emotion, curiosity, admiration, desire, and hesitancy all intertwined. He notices the subtle nuances in her body language, the tilt of her head, the way her shoulders relax when she's near him, the quiet exhale as if letting herself be present without guarding every thought. It draws him in, not with urgency but with a magnetic, irresistible pull that feels both thrilling and grounding. Internally, he struggles with the natural tension between desire and propriety. She's my friend's mom, but I can't deny this connection. Yet he also feels an emerging clarity. This intimacy is not about crossing lines, it's about presence, empathy, and genuine human closeness. The moment is delicate, balanced on trust and restraint, highlighting the emotional depth of their relationship rather than relying on overt romance. By the end of this part, the audience should feel the intimacy deepening without breaking boundaries. The story emphasizes subtle, meaningful touches and lingering presence, showing how two people can connect profoundly, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, without stepping into inappropriate territory. This chapter sets the stage for the next phase: honest confessions, emotional honesty, and the acknowledgement of mutual feelings that will propel the story toward a deeper emotional climax. The evening has settled into a calm, almost sacred quiet. The golden hue of the setting sun has faded into the soft shadows of lamplight, lending the room a warm, intimate glow. He and she sit across from each other, the air heavy with unspoken words. The earlier playful flirtation, the subtle touches, the shared laughter, all of it has led to this suspended moment, where neither can ignore the feelings that have grown between them. She speaks first, her voice low and steady, though there's a vulnerability beneath the calm surface. "I haven't been honest with myself, or with you," she admits, her eyes fixed on his. The weight of her words, simple yet profound, makes his chest tighten. He notices the subtle tremor in her fingers, the slight tilt of her head, the way her lips press together as if holding back something deeper. Her confession is not just about desire, it's about acknowledgement, about recognizing the connection they've shared and the emotional risk she's willing to take in speaking it aloud. He swallows, feeling a mix of exhilaration and fear. This is real. She's saying it. I can't pretend anymore. He responds carefully, his voice quiet but sincere. I feel the same. I've tried to ignore it, but I can't. Being around you, it's different. You're different. Each word carries the weight of honesty, a deliberate choice to bridge the gap between propriety and emotion. The physical closeness remains subtle but meaningful. Their knees brush as they sit near each other, the occasional accidental touch a reminder of their connection. She doesn't pull away, instead, she lets the contact linger, her fingers occasionally grazing his hand, a gentle, almost imperceptible signal of trust and invitation. The room feels suspended in time, the outside world fading, leaving only the two of them in a shared bubble of vulnerability and anticipation. Yet hesitation remains, an invisible boundary neither can fully cross. He is painfully aware of her role as his friend's mother, the social expectations, the potential consequences. She, too, pauses, her gaze dropping to her hands, as if weighing the risks against the pull of emotion. There's a tension in the room that is almost tangible, a delicate balance of longing and restraint. In this moment, the audience should feel the complexity of their emotions, desire tempered by morality, attraction intertwined with admiration, curiosity mingled with fear. The confession is not dramatic or impulsive, it's quiet, deliberate, and deeply human. The intimacy they share is emotional first, physical second, creating a bond that feels authentic and layered. By the end of this scene, both characters have acknowledged their feelings, but they also understand the gravity of the situation. The story pauses here, balancing hope with caution, allowing the audience to feel the weight of emotional honesty and the magnetic pull of connection. This chapter sets the stage for the resolution, where they decide how to navigate their feelings, confront their desires, and determine what kind of relationship they can share moving forward. The night has fully settled, and the house is quiet except for the faint hum of a ceiling fan and the soft ticking of the clock. Outside, the world continues unaware of the delicate, transformative moment taking place inside. He and she remain in the living room, sitting close but not touching, the earlier tension softened into a calm, reflective intimacy. The air is thick with unspoken feelings, yet it is no longer tense, it is comforting, like a quiet promise of understanding. They talk softly, sharing thoughts and dreams they've never voiced aloud, exploring the spaces between words with gentle laughter and pauses filled with meaning. She reaches for her mug of tea, and he instinctively mirrors her movement, their hands brushing briefly. The touch is subtle, almost accidental, but it carries a depth of connection that neither needs to articulate. He notices the warmth of her hand lingering longer than expected, the way her gaze meets his with quiet curiosity and trust. There is a shared acknowledgement of what they both feel, tempered by the reality of their situation. I don't know what this means for the future, she admits, her voice low and thoughtful. There's no shame in her words, only honesty and a vulnerability that makes him lean in closer, drawn not just to her beauty, but to the raw humanity she's willing to reveal. He responds gently, his voice steady but soft. I don't either, but I know I don't want to ignore it. The physical closeness is meaningful yet safe. Their knees brush occasionally as they shift on the couch, small touches that speak louder than any words could. A hand rests briefly near hers on the armrest, the contact fleeting but deliberate, an unspoken promise of care and presence. Their faces are often near enough that he can see the subtle expressions in her eyes, the tilt of her lips, the gentle rise and fall of her breath. Each detail reinforces the connection that has been building steadily, patiently, through shared laughter, whispered words, and stolen moments of vulnerability. They pause to simply look at each other, the room bathed in the soft glow of a nearby lamp. In that silence, he feels the culmination of every prior moment, the playful teasing, the whispered invitation, the tender touches, the emotional confessions, all coalescing into a sense of belonging and warmth. It is not a rush of passion, but a steady, grounding certainty. They have found something rare, meaningful, and profoundly human. Finally, she reaches out and lightly squeezes his hand, a simple gesture of intimacy that says more than any declaration could. He returns the squeeze, their eyes meeting in mutual understanding. They are together, but with caution, curiosity, and respect for the delicate reality of their circumstances. The audience should feel both satisfaction and anticipation. The slow-burn romance has reached its emotional peak, offering closure while leaving the future open, full of promise. As he leaves that evening, there is a lingering warmth in his chest, a sense of connection that will shape him long after he steps out the door. He knows that this is the beginning of something meaningful, built on trust, care, and emotional honesty. The story closes on a note of subtle triumph. They have acknowledged their feelings, embraced their bond, and stepped into the unknown together, heartfelt, cautious, but profoundly connected.